So with the third imperative, we focus on operational readiness. And operational readiness can be defined really as a mashup of people, process, and systems. We would focus a little bit more on the process aspect of change management from an operational readiness standpoint. What we're finding is really this aspect of inadequate change management, putting initiatives in the store, not really necessarily either understanding or allocating enough resources and budget as part of a initiative rollout to what it means for the processes at the store level, what it means for people, what it means for training and all that, those sorts of aspects. To the new capabilities, a lot of buy online, pick up in store, the first round of these as they were rolled out, or the ship from store initiatives, we saw retailers doing this without having accurate in-store inventory, which led to high, mid 30, lower 40% order inaccuracy rates when they had a item that was in an order that included an item that was being shipped from the store. So imagine the cost that is incurred for some of these initiatives to be turned down without the associated capabilities that actually enable them. And then even things such as redesigning your store experiences, redesigning your store for these digital experiences. We're seeing digital upstarts, and so that Rebecca's not the only one holding the flag for the direct-to-consumer brand. I'll throw one out with MGME, this Boston-based footwear retailer that's doing direct-to-consumer, custom-crafted Italian footwear, and they're focusing on fit. They're saying footwear as a category has such a high return percentage, for online, that if we can figure fit right, and then we can make this so much more of a valuable play in the footwear category. And they're using their stores as these inventory-less showrooms. But again, they're using stores where people can come in and get a better sense of their fit. Once they're in their system, they can get merchandise much more frequently through refreshed designs and what have you. So again, wanted to go around the horn, and we see operational readiness as really being probably the central pillar on which any of these strategies are based, because you can figure out, what the role of your store is and who your shopper is. But when you're not operationally ready, you're bound to fail.
Well, one that comes to mind that I think as consumers we all feel quite a bit is if you're standing in line at a store, particularly a long line, it seems egregious. And I think something that retailers, and I'll talk about a legacy retailer that did a great job and was a little bit of a leader in it, was Coach/Tapestry, began to take out their checkout counters and began to go all via the iPad. And I'm sure that there was both a lot of internal sell-in in taking away the cash wrap, and also external sell-in to customers who were used to just walking up to one. But what it allows is certainly, for a better customer experience. I think a little bit of a more technology-focused experience for that Coach/Tapestry, customer. But on the back end, obviously, that was probably no easy feat, both infrastructure, operationally, and technologically.
Yeah, I think that when we look at, I like the word redesign, because I think it's really important to delineate the difference between, having a shopping journey, looking at it, and then adding in technology along the way to make the journey easier, versus stepping back and saying, well, wait a minute, let's start with the journey and think about the digital experience that's going to help us make this journey, more relevant for a customer. And it's almost like taking design thinking for retail, design thinking, starting with the customer and then building it out. So Giri, I'll go back to your shoe example. Adding in something to an existing journey would be, okay, we have a lot of shoe returns. Let's make it easier for customers to return shoes. No, we don't want to do that. What we want to do is go back to the customer and say, well, why are they returning? Let's figure out how to get less returns, not how to accommodate more returns from a process standpoint. So really looking at this from a design thinking standpoint, I think is very important.
Yeah, I think, this really is that linchpin to all, because you can put so many things into this operational readiness category, and it really does force you to look behind the scenes and look deeper, both into the organization, the processes, the store itself. What are all the different back-end systems that are supporting everything that you're trying to do? Even if you walk through, and take Shelley's example of a return, right? You walk through the process of everything that's touched along the way, and then ask yourself, how can I improve that, right? If I'm inserting if I'm doing something like a Walmart tower, right? Inserting some sort of automated return capability, what are all the different systems that have to be touched in this process now that's no longer going to be associate-led, perhaps, but is going to be self-driven, right, by a customer? You really need to have an understanding not just of what are the front-end pieces, but what are the back-end pieces that support that? What are the infrastructure pieces that are touched by this new process you're trying to introduce? And make sure that you've evaluated the readiness of each of those components before you go through and actually implement the front-end piece, so you don't have any surprises. Obviously, the last thing any retailer is going to want is to put that new experience in, and works great during a test phase or a POC at one or two stores, but then as more customers come through, you realize that maybe you missed something that was required to scale that experience out, and that therefore you weren't as ready as you thought you were because someone forgot to evaluate a back-end process along the way. So I think it really does speak to having the right detailed lens to look through internally all the different systems and processes that are required for each new experience.
Completely agree. So to recap, this operational readiness could be a broader bucket, but has to be looked at through the lens of procedural, process, and cultural readiness. And it has to really be a matter of detail, looking at where this experience fits in and what are the depth of, the devil in the detail. What is the detail that's needed to be able to execute on the customer promise at scale?